Welcome to the Leadership Insights Podcast, the podcast that takes you on a journey into the world of leadership, offering a deep dive into the minds of accomplished leaders from various fields around the world. I'm your host, Amanda Jane, originally from the north of Ireland and now living in beautiful Cheshire, England. Together we'll explore the strategies, experiences and wisdom that have shaped these incredible leaders into the visionaries they are today through solo episodes and interviews. I'm a leadership and communications coach myself, and I'm passionate about promoting a coaching culture in the workplace, as well as empowering leaders to flourish personally and thrive professionally. Whether you're a seasoned executive, an aspiring leader in business, or someone simply fascinated by the art of leadership, each episode will provide valuable insights, practical tips, and inspiring stories. So get ready for a dose of motivation, innovation, and leadership brilliance on the Leadership Insights Podcast, brought to you by amandajane.co.uk. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Leadership Insights Podcast. And today I have with me Angie Severson. Did I pronounce that correctly, Angie? Severson. Hi, welcome, and thank you for joining me.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
And where are you joining us from today?
I am in Pomeroy, Washington, in the U.S. Inland, it's very close to Idaho and Oregon, so it's not the coast, but it's a beautiful place.
Well, I'm in very wintry, rainy England at the moment, and I think I'd rather be where you are. So you're an emotional freedom coach, and we'll get to that in a second. Have you had an opportunity to think about your favorite motivational song?
Yes, what I picked is Vivir mi vida from Mark Anthony. It is such a great Latin song, and I love Spanish. It was actually my major in college. And so anything Hispanic and Latin is the best. And the words truly are motivational as well. It's just all about living your life and, not letting anybody tell you how to do it and just letting it be how you want. So I really love that.
It does. That's kind of music that does get you up dancing, isn't it? It gets you moving. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And do you have a favorite motivational quote?
This one was harder to pick a favorite just because there's so many good ones. But the one I landed on, I used to think was pretty big cliche, right? But life is a journey, not a destination. And that's credited most often to Ralph Waldo Emerson. But the reason why I really love this one is because in the last couple of years, I feel like I've truly come to understand what it means. You hear people always say, live in the moment and, don't let these precious moments pass you by. And it's like, yeah, okay. Like, I know everybody tells you that, but finding the joy in the journey and realizing that, there isn't a set place to end. Like we all have the same finish line, right? We should enjoy getting there. I really love that one.
That is so true. And there's another saying, and I want to say that John Lennon said it. Life is what happens when you're busy making plans. Something like that. Yeah, I'll look it up, and if it's wrong, I'll edit it out. But it's so true because it's we spend so much time dashing to get here, dashing to get there, figuratively and literally. And yeah, it is a journey. And I quite like mindfulness and pausing, stopping, taking it all in. And yeah, it absolutely. Yeah, that is such a good quote. I love that. And what about a book?
So what I picked for my favorite book is Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. This is the first book in an amazing series, and I read it over and over and over again. It's science fiction fantasy, and I got into it, I think, in my middle school or high school years, maybe. But it's really great.
That sounds like good escapism. I like escapism. Yes. And you read it over and over, did you say?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'll go through that series every now and then, and I always come back to it.
Brilliant. It's nice when you can do that. When I was little, I used to read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe over and over again. Yeah. I could read that forever, and I still enjoy it to this day. Oh, thank you so much for that. That's such a fascinating insight into individuals, isn't it? So Can you share your leadership journey and some key milestones that shaped your career?
Yeah. So thinking about this, I was sort of like a smart kid growing up, right? I never really considered myself a leader though, until getting into my professional career. So I first worked in the private sector, and then that was just a year or two, and I moved over to public service for the state of Wisconsin. And I've just always been really driven, right? And I learned as much as I could, and that was always rewarded with, promotions or bigger and better opportunities, which I loved, right? I loved connecting with new people and learning. And I managed to land a training position when I worked for the Department of Revenue, which taught me so much, right? Because, especially I feel like when you're younger and, maybe just coming out of your college years, you have this grand idea of what leadership means and what it looks like. And for me, it's like, oh, but working with people just kind of completely complicates the dynamic, doesn't it? Like I can't just be up here, coding what I might know or not know. And so it really taught me a lot about working with people and kind of figuring out what makes them tick. So that position really taught me a lot. And when I moved over to Wisconsin State Patrol, I had the opportunity to be the open records coordinator for the whole state. And I think that was probably one of the most memorable parts of my professional career, even though it was the shortest part of my public service, because of the people that I met. It really has to do with the connections that I made there, the different places that I got to visit when I visited the post. I did a ride along with an officer and got to see some really interesting things there.
That sounds like fun.
But yeah, kind of leading that group of people, the coordinators across the state to, try to really streamline things and understand the dynamic of, when you have people that have been working at a place for a really long time and how to kind of, get them to shift their mindset to see that different doesn't have to be bad, right? Different doesn't have to be scary. So that really was a great experience. Yeah. And then I feel like today, and maybe we would have gotten into this with a different question, but my idea of leadership has changed a lot. I have been not working a 9-to-5 for almost 2 years now since my husband and I moved across the country from Wisconsin here to the state of Washington. And I became a stay-at-home mom for the first time about 2.5 years ago when my oldest was about 3.5.
That's a different type of leadership, isn't it?
It is so different. It is so different. I've learned so much about myself and my parenting style and what I wanted, right? Because I realized pretty quickly that the way I was showing up for myself and my kids was not what I wanted. And so just shifting what I was doing, how I was showing up, who I was being has been a process, and it will always be a process. But leadership now is just putting myself first and showing, especially my kids, but the people around me too, where in our culture, it's not celebrated to take care of yourself in the way that we truly need to be taking care of ourselves. So to me, that's leadership. I am showing other people how it is okay to put yourself first. It's important to put yourself first. And that's how you can show up to be the best person you can be for the people that you love and the people that you interact with. So that is what I think leadership is today.
That is so interesting. And I couldn't agree more. It's perceived as indulgent. And I can't think of any other words that would that I could say on a podcast. But yeah, it's not something that we should do, look after ourselves. You're supposed to put everyone else first and blah, blah, blah. And there's something I always say as a leader to anyone that works with me, and they immediately get it. And it's always, when you fly on a plane, they tell you to put your own mask on first. And then you look after everyone else. And people, you can see the penny dropping. But that's the most important thing. If your batteries aren't charged, if you're not looking after yourself, you cannot look after the people, the family, the team that you're in charge of if you're not ready and prepared to do, to step up and look after people. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work in convincing people that that's the right way to do it. So an interesting observation. So how are you changing perceptions on that then?
So you mean like getting people to kind of change their way of thinking? Yeah. I mean, I think that the main way, like I mentioned, is really modeling. So then the people in my world, they start to get curious. Like they'll notice you seem a lot less stressed out. You don't seem as overwhelmed. You don't have as much on your plate. You used to be so busy all the time and, excelling or appearing to excel at everything. And that's when I spilled the tea, so to speak. I'm like, well, it turns out I wasn't, on top of everything. And I didn't have it all together. And the reason why is because I wasn't focusing on what I needed, what my body needed, what my mind, my soul, my emotional health needed in that moment. And so, yeah, just really modeling. And then I'm getting my message out there. I'm just trying to share, my experiences and things that have really helped me kind of change my way of thinking from, well, that's just the way it is, to it doesn't have to be this way. You especially hear from young moms who they're told all the time, well, that's just the season you're in. Like it, that's just the way it is. I'm like, no, I don't subscribe to that idea anymore. Yes, I am in a season. It is challenging, but it doesn't mean that it has to be where I am just perpetually exhausted, overwhelmed, not able to enjoy any pieces of my life because I have young children. That's not true. And I want others to see that it's not true for them either.
It's so interesting because I'm relating to what you said in that fog of exhaustion, to have the mental capacity to think, oh, it doesn't have to be that way. It's a really fascinating journey to go down, because you are programmable, aren't you, to the people around you? Well, that's just the way it is. That you just have to do it, and you kind of follow instructions, don't you? So to kind of buck that trend and think, well, no, actually, it doesn't have to be that way. I think it's very visionary. So, yeah, and the more people that are out there talking about, changing the norm, it's just bound to help new parents as time goes on, because certainly, previous generations before us, things were so very different. And as time goes on, it has changed and it has evolved. And maybe, in the not too distant future, things will change again. So it takes that person to, think differently and stop and influence behaviors. So with all that going on, who's inspired you? Who's inspired your style throughout your life? Have you got anyone or any? And it doesn't have to be famous. It can be anyone at all.
Yeah, I mean, when I got to thinking about this, I couldn't land on anyone. And I come from a family of really amazing and, powerful women. I'm the youngest of four girls, and, our mother, the matriarch of the family, so to speak. And so really, those women in my life have made a huge impact. And then I've got a nice little tight knit group of girlfriends. They're all mostly back in Wisconsin still, but they're really, really great too, because they remind me that, friendship and just support and love don't have to look a certain way, right? It doesn't matter how much time has passed when we've, since we've physically seen each other, but they're always there. They're always there to support and help. So yeah, just, mentors, my life coach is amazing. I love her to death. And so just really so many amazing women in my life that can definitely attribute my success. I know people define success in a lot of different ways, but what I call success right now is that I have come home to myself. Like I'm truly learning who I am and what I want, what I value, how I want to show up for myself and then for other people around me. And without seeing the struggles and experiencing my own struggles, but seeing the struggles that those other women in my life have gone through, it's just so inspiring to see how much they've persevered every time in different ways. So,
and I love
great.
that you said, what's the definition of success? I love that, because so many times it's got dollar signs pinned to it, and it's got luxury life on the beach and all of that. And absolutely, that is not the definition of success. And for me, it's measured on what's going on inside, and your peace of mind, and where you find joy and solace and happiness, and what's around you. And I think if you can measure yourself as that contented person with the lovely influences that are going on around, I just think it doesn't get any better than that, really. And everything else that's nice is it's a bonus, but to seek out the wrong things is not going to make what's going on inside any better, is it? So no, I really like that. It's lovely. And you mentioned your family. It's such a joy if you can bring your family into, they've been such a positive influence. Did you mention a life coach in there? Was there a coach or a mentor?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that
Yes.
someone you work with regularly?
Yes. Yep. I'm working with her now, and I worked with her, I want to say, for at least the past 6 months, maybe longer, maybe closer to a year, one-on-one. And she is just fabulous. helps me through, and she's helped me through a lot of rough times, but it's really helped me celebrate myself too when I maybe wasn't inclined to or recognize that there was something worth celebrating. So she has really helped kind of hone my ability to see that in myself and help me grow that to see in other people as well, because it's always so much easier to see that for other people, right? Mm-hmm. It's really important to be able to really turn inward and recognize when you have accomplished something, no matter how big or small, because the small moments are usually the big moments, right? When you have gotten over a hump, you might look at it as a little hill, not a mountain, but other people, if they could see what happened, what you did, it's like, wow, that really is a big accomplishment. You should be really proud. So yeah, she helps me a lot with that.
And a good coach will not let you minimize your achievements. I love that. And she's holding you accountable, making you show up and not minimizing achievements. And that sounds like a really good coach. And it does make all the difference, because, left to your own devices, you will minimize every single achievement. And that we were talking before we started recording about journaling and things. And that's the type of thing I would encourage about journaling. You put all your achievements in there so you don't minimize it or you don't forget it. But no, that she sounds brilliant. That's really good. So we talked before, you've got a growing family, you've got a lot going on, you've got your business. So how do you manage work-life harmony? So I'm steering away from the word balance. I'm going to say harmony, because I don't think there's any such thing as balance anymore. So if you can blend a harmony, that sounds like perfection. So how do you manage harmony?
Yes, such a great question. I really do love that you included the word harmony, because I agree. Balance implies that things are equal, and that will never be the case. Like things are never going to be equal in your life. There's going to be give and take in different areas. So, I mean, for me, having dedicated times when I'm able to work on my business and asking for support, usually from my husband, but also days like today where we're recording this episode, I'm sitting in a coffee shop. I'm enjoing a nice mug of warm coffee to myself, no children with me, right? So,
it's so precious, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. So taking that time to myself and really being able to, yes, have that dedicated time for my business, but this is also when I get in some really great self-care, when I can reflect, right? I need that alone time. I'm an introvert by nature. You might call me an ambivert. It really depends on the situation, the external circumstances, but I need time alone to recharge. So to be able to have everything be in harmony, I need to seek out and ask for help with getting that time for myself. And also just kind of adjusting my habits and getting up earlier when the sun is shining earlier, right? We're getting into that time of year, and that helps a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want my kids growing up and remembering that mom was always on the phone, right? I try to incorporate them when I am working on things. Of course, there's going to be times when I do keep myself in my office, right? And like, hey, please try not to interrupt me. Please don't bother me. I have something important I'm working on. But then if they do, they're almost 6, 4.5, and little guy's just 20 months. So they're going to come in. There's no lock on that door. And you know what? I am okay with that. I am choosing not to make it a problem, because I want them to see what it looks like for me to work on the things I'm passionate about, but also not have it seem like or make them feel like they're in the way or they're a problem, right? Because that's not the case. They are my primary focus. They are the reason I'm doing this, and to show them what it looks like to go after what you're passionate about. So they're definitely a huge part of that. And I wouldn't change that for anything.
Yeah. And I think it's good for them to see a parent at home, or a parent or a carer at home working, and seeing what you're doing. You're sharing your goals with them. And now my children are older. I can ask them, what did you think about that? Or what did you think? And it's actually been quite a positive experience, because they learned so much, and I involved them when they were little. And funnily enough, they both went on to study business studies, which was great. And, the vocabulary was already there, and they knew a lot. So I know that they had skills from a very early age that, other people their age didn't have. But for me, the word balance, it always used to make me feel a little bit inferior, because and that's why I like using the word harmony, because balance, I knew I didn't have any balance. And I always imagined the spinning plates that were constantly crashing around me. So when anyone talked about work-life balance, my response was, yes, I'm balanced. Yes, I'm balanced. when I really wasn't. But harmony, you can think to yourself, well, I'm doing my best here and I'm not that great here, but it'll be different tomorrow. And I like that because we are imperfect beings, and the quest for perfection, it doesn't have to be that way. And you know, you can live in a state of imperfection and it's fine. So I like that thinking that it's emerging now. You know, nothing has to be perfect. But I refer to myself as a recovering perfectionist because I did spend some time in that zone until I realized, what am I doing this for? You know, and it was just purely driven by myself. So I do like that. You know, with the family, it's very different to how it used to be. And, you know, if you've crafted a business that you can work around your family, I think that's fantastic. And if they see mom working, you have no idea what you're actually teaching them, those values that will be so important to them when they're a lot older. So, you know, that is brilliant. It's just a really lovely example, isn't it?
It is.
So, what legacy then do you hope to leave as a leader, and the impact of your leadership?
Yes. So the legacy I want to leave for women is for them to no longer be afraid of what other people think of them, being themselves, right? I want them to be able to ask for what they want, not feel guilty for taking time for themselves, you know, that self-care, but it goes so much deeper than the superficial self-care you hear everybody talk about, right? Actually truly taking care of their needs. And then asking for help without feeling like a burden. I went for the longest time feeling like I was burdening other people when I finally got enough courage to ask for help. And it doesn't have to be that way. I'm always coming back to it. I'm choosing not to make it a problem. It does not have to be that way. And the less you make it a problem, the easier it becomes to actually step into that and feel confident that, hey, I deserve to ask for help. I deserve support when I need it. I deserve to go after what I want. So yeah, if I've helped even one woman improve her relationship to herself, then that will be success. That will be the impact that I'm here to make. And I know that I'm already there because I've done it for myself with the support that I have had in my life. And I'm showing my daughter what it looks like to be okay being your full self. Like, I want you to be yourself. Yeah, you're up 6 a.m. singing and being as loud as you can, waking your brothers up. Might ask you to quiet down, but other mornings I'm just like, let's do it. This is her. She loves it. She loves being awake at this time. And I don't want to dampen that light, right? I don't want to dampen that flame. And so it's really important for me to highlight that when I see other women that are just kind of going through life, going through the motions. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. I want to see them light up and get excited about being alive. Like, this is your only life. And guess what? You're the only one you're going to be with 24/7 for the rest of your life. So why not make yourself happy? That's what I want to leave.
I like that. That's going to stick in my head now, your relationship with yourself. And it's making me think, how did we get this way? How did we arrive at a situation where we don't want to ask for help, or it's a weakness to ask for help? And I previously, not now, but previously, if I needed to know anything, I used to buy a book, or I used to go and research, and it really was a very big thing for me to ask for help. And I don't know where it came from or what it is, because I was always very independent and a natural leader. You know, I was a fixer, problem solver, and it's just something that I'm probably still working through. But for me to ask for help, it really was a big thing. And it wasn't that I was afraid of the act of doing it. It was just I didn't know how to. Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? So I think, you know, the fact that you're out there doing it and bringing that awareness, you know, to people like me, to force me to ask myself that question. I love it. So, you know, I've seen you on Instagram. So where can we find more about you and what you do?
Yeah. So I don't have a website up and running. I have one that runs when I'm doing my free workshops, which my next one I don't have completely scheduled, but I think it's going to happen at the end of the month. So if I may, my workshop has a cuss word in it. Is that allowed in this?
That's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
So So it's called Kick Overwhelm Right in the Ass. And I picked this because originally I was going to call it It's Not You, It's Your Brain. And, because I kind of go into the subconscious mind and how your primal brain is running the show and how you need to be able to rewire that with new thoughts and new belief systems in order to move closer to living your life instead of letting life happen to you. Right. But then I'm like, what is this really about? We're overwhelmed. We're sick of it kicking us in the ass. We're going to turn around and kick it in the ass. Like kicking overwhelm in the ass is what I want to help people do. So that's going to happen at the end of the month. And I'll have details on my Instagram and Facebook. I show up a little more there, more prevalently, I would say. So I'm there. And I also have a free Facebook community that I recently created that is called the same, Kick Overwhelm Right in the Ass with Angie Severson.
I love it because it gets attention, and you know what? It's just one of those things that you just have to, you just have to grab it and do it, and force people to face it, and I love it.
Yes, and the really funny thing about this too, and I'm gung ho. The name implies it, right? But what I'm sharing in that group right now, primarily, are simple ways to slow down, right? Because the art of not making things a problem and having your own back, coming home to yourself and getting rid of your overwhelm is to slow down and really check in with yourself and see, what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and seeing where you might need to make some changes and shift your mindset. So I'm really enjoying that. Again, it's kind of a baby community, so to speak, but I'm really excited to grow it and get some more amazing empowered women in there who are ready to start making changes and start living more of the life that they know they're here to live. They're ready to step into that. They're just not quite sure how. They're not sure where to start. So I have that open for any women who are interested. And then I do also have the doors open to my very first group coaching program called Rise Above: The Art of Not Making Shit a Problem. And that's a 12-week experience based on 3 pillars, and I'll keep this brief, but basically we're going over, mental health. So if, a healthy mindset, emotional resilience, and then potent habits. And then the 12 weeks will be broken up under those. I'm going to have some meditation, some tapping, emotional freedom technique or EFT thrown in there. And then the group coaching is really where the magic happens. Any group coaching program I've been part of, that is where I learn the most, whether I'm there live or I'm catching the replay. Anytime you hear somebody share, there's always something that I can take away for my own life. And it's really an amazing kind of space. So that's what I'm creating. And that starts April 1st. So that's what I have going on right now.
That sounds incredible. And the appetite is huge. And I just love the transformation journey and the self-awareness, and people are curious about those things, and especially the impact that it can potentially have. So your Instagram handle is Angie
Loves.life.
So we can get to everything from your Instagram, right?
Yeah.
That is perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Angie. I have loved every second. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And as usual, I could talk to you all night. Thank you so much for joining me from your coffee shop. And it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Insights podcast today. And special thanks to my lovely guest, Angie Severson. Join me on the next episode for more inspirational leadership stories and insights. You can follow me on Instagram at Coach Amanda Jane or visit my website amandajane.co.uk. Bye for now.